My parents tried forcing me to babysit my nephew for free while I sacrificed my career, so I quit overnight, and what happened broke their control. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and for as long as I can remember, I've always been the one who kept things together for my family. It's like I've been the glue that holds everything in place, even when I was falling apart myself. My parents, my younger sister, even my friends, they've all relied on me. I guess I got used to it. When things went wrong, I stepped up. Financial trouble, that was on me. Family drama. I was the one trying to mediate, to fix things. The weight of their expectations was like an invisible backpack I'd been carrying since I was a kid. I can't tell you how many times I missed out on life because I was too busy playing the role of the responsible one. While my friends were out partying or traveling, I was working double shifts to help my parents pay bills. No one ever asked me if I wanted to help. It was just expected. Every time I had an idea for a project or a chance to further my career, I'd put it aside because, in my family's eyes, their needs always came first. I didn't mind at first. It felt like the right thing to do, but after a while, I began to feel like I was just a tool for everyone else's convenience. And don't get me started on my sister, Emma. She's the golden child, always getting the praise, the opportunities, the love. I never resented her for it, at least. I tried not to, but every time she got another compliment or was bailed out of a mistake, I couldn't help but feel like I was invisible. When it came time for me to ask for a little help, I was met with excuses, or worse, silence. The thing is, I never once complained. I just did what was expected of me. But deep down, I knew. I knew this wasn't sustainable. I knew they didn't appreciate me the way I needed them to, and I couldn't keep pretending like I didn't see it. But things were about to change. When I graduated college, I had big dreams. I wanted to work in tech, travel the world, and build something meaningful. But reality had other plans. My parents were in a financial bind, and as the eldest, it fell on me to help out. I remember the night they told me they were struggling. It wasn't a conversation, really. My dad just looked at me with that tired, desperate expression and said, "We need you to step up." It wasn't a request, it was a demand. I put my dreams on hold to make sure they were okay. I took a job at a dead-end office, barely making enough to cover rent and send money home. I told myself it was temporary, that it was just a stepping stone until I could get back on track. But the stepping stone turned into a quicksand pit. Every year, I thought, next year, I'll finally start working on my career, but the demands of home life never stopped. It was like I was stuck in an endless cycle of doing for everyone else and never getting to do for myself. I remember having a conversation with my mom one day. I'd just gotten passed up for a promotion I'd worked hard for, and all I wanted was someone to listen, to tell me it would be okay. Instead, my mom sighed and said, "You know, your sister's doing so well. She's got such a bright future." It stung, but I didn't say anything. I just nodded and smiled, even though all I wanted to do was scream. Emma had her life together. She had the job, the social life, the freedom I'd always wanted. Meanwhile, I was stuck, pouring everything into a family that never seemed to appreciate how much I was giving. I tried to talk to my dad about it once. I said I wanted to start focusing on my career, but he just shook his head. "You've got more important things to worry about right now. We need you here." And just like that, any dream I had for myself was buried under the weight of their expectations. The day my parents asked me to babysit my nephew, it felt like a turning point. It wasn't the first time they'd asked me to do something for them, but this request hit differently. They'd been talking about how busy they were with work and how they needed a break. They didn't even hesitate before saying, "We need you to watch Ethan for a few hours. It'll just be a couple of times a week, nothing too big." I didn't think much of it at first. It wasn't unreasonable, right? I'd helped out before. But then the hours turned into days, and soon it became a weekly commitment. I was juggling my job, managing my parents' finances, and now I was the primary babysitter. They would drop Ethan off with no warning, leaving me scrambling to figure out how to balance it all. Every time I tried to get out of it, I was met with the same line. "We really need your help. You're the only one who can do it." It was overwhelming. I remember one day, my boss called me into his office for what I thought was going to be a discussion about my performance. Instead, he asked why I'd been consistently late on projects, why I wasn't as present at work as I used to be. I wanted to tell him everything about how I was being pulled in 1,000 directions, about how I couldn't say no to my family. But I didn't. I just gave him the usual excuse about being busy at home. When I came back to my apartment after work, there was a note from my mom on the kitchen counter. It said, "We need you again tomorrow night to help with Ethan. Hope you don't mind." I sat there for a while, staring at the note. They never asked if I was okay with it. It was just assumed that I would drop everything to help them. And the worst part, I kept doing it. I kept saying yes because I didn't know how to say no, but deep down, I was starting to resent it. I was tired of sacrificing my time, my career, my future. And when I tried to talk to them about how it was affecting me, they always had an excuse. It was like I was just a piece in their puzzle that they could move around whenever it suited them. I didn't realize it yet, but this was where everything would begin to break. It wasn't until I got a call from my mom that everything really started to unravel. She said, "We need you to babysit tomorrow. Just a few hours, nothing too crazy." The thing was, I had a critical presentation at work the next day. A project I'd been working on for months, my big chance to finally prove myself. I'd been preparing for weeks, staying late at the office, rehearsing, getting everything perfect. This was my moment to show my boss that I had what it took to move up, to finally break free from the routine that had been holding me back. But when I told my mom I couldn't help out this time, her response was a punch to the gut. She said, "You know how much we need you? We can't keep doing this without you. Are you really going to make us ask someone else?" I could hear the disappointment in her voice, the weight of guilt slipping in. It wasn't just about babysitting anymore. It was about me letting down my family, about failing them when they needed me the most. I felt trapped. How could I say no without feeling like I was failing? But I also knew if I agreed my career everything I'd worked for would crumble. I tried to explain to her how important this presentation was. I told her, "Mom, this could change everything for me. I can't just drop it." But she was silent on the other end of the line. Then she said, almost too calmly, "I guess we'll just have to figure something else out then." That was it. Something snapped in me. I couldn't take it anymore. I'd spent my whole life bending over backward for everyone, never once asking for anything in return. And this moment, this one conversation, made me realize something I'd been ignoring for years. My family wasn't just asking for help, they were demanding it, and I was letting them walk all over me. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I texted my mom, "I'm not coming over today. I need to focus on my future. I can't keep doing this." And then, I shut my phone off. I didn't expect it to escalate the way it did, but the moment I turned my phone back on after that day, I saw a series of angry texts and missed calls from my mom. I braced myself, but when I called her back, I could barely get a word in. "How could you do this?" she screamed. "You've let us down. We've always been there for you, and this is how you repay us." I'd never heard her speak to me like that before. My chest tightened, and I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. I wanted to apologize, to tell her I was sorry for not helping, but something inside me snapped. I'd been apologizing my whole life for things I didn't even do, things that weren't my responsibility. This time, I wasn't going to apologize. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "I'm not going to keep doing this, Mom. I can't. I've sacrificed too much. My career, my future, everything. And for what? For you to just keep expecting more from me. I can't keep being your fallback plan." She was quiet for a moment, but then came the guilt trip. "You don't understand. Your sister is too busy with her own life, and your dad is working long hours. You're the only one who can help." I felt my heart race. Every word she spoke felt like a weight on my chest. But deep down, I knew I had to stick to my guns. I had to let her know this wasn't how it was going to work anymore. "Mom, I'm sorry, but I'm not the one to fix everything for you. I'm not responsible for your problems, and I can't be the one to take care of everything anymore. I'm trying to build my own life." There was a long silence on the other end. Then she said something I didn't expect. "So, you're just going to leave us to figure it out on our own?" My throat tightened. "I'm not leaving you, but I'm done being the one who sacrifices everything. It's time for me to live my life." The call ended with her hanging up on me, and I stood there, frozen for a few moments. I didn't know what to feel: relief, fear, guilt. All I knew was that something had shifted. I was no longer the person who would just quietly accept whatever they threw at me. But I had no idea yet how deep the fallout would be. The days that followed felt like I was walking on eggshells. I was expecting the fallout from my mom's reaction, but I wasn't prepared for how it would hit me. She didn't call or text at first, which felt odd. But then, my dad reached out. "Son, I think your mom's really upset about everything. You need to talk to her," he said over the phone, his tone calm but pleading. "We didn't mean to put so much on your plate, but you're the oldest, and sometimes we just rely on you. You know how it is." His words were meant to comfort me, but instead, they made me feel smaller. It was like he was brushing off the fact that I had just told them, for the first time, that I couldn't keep carrying the burden. I could already feel the weight of it all sinking in the emotional manipulation. The guilt trips that I had been so used to, every word they spoke had a hidden layer. "We've done so much for you, and this is how you repay us." It wasn't a conversation about understanding my needs. It was about making me feel guilty for daring to set boundaries. The worst part was, I knew it was happening, but I still couldn't shake the feeling that I was doing something wrong. That I was being selfish. That maybe, just maybe, I should have gone over to help babysit. I was so used to saying yes, so conditioned to putting myself last, that even when I was right, I still questioned myself. Later that evening, my mom called. Her voice was softer now, almost fragile. "I just want you to know that I'm not mad at you. I'm just ... disappointed. We've always been there for you, and I thought you'd always be there for us. But I guess I was wrong." I didn't know what to say. My heart ached as she spoke, but I couldn't give in. I couldn't be the person they needed me to be anymore, not at the cost of my own well-being. "I need some time, Mom," I said quietly, my voice trembling. "I need to focus on my life now." There was another long pause, and then she said, "I just don't want you to regret this." And with that, she hung up. I stared at my phone, the weight of her words settling over me. Regret, it was the one thing that had been haunting me, the one thing that had kept me stuck for so long. But I knew now that if I didn't make this change, I'd regret that far more. A week had passed since I'd set my boundaries with my parents, and honestly, I thought the worst was behind me. Sure, there had been some tension, but I figured we'd all get past it. I didn't hear much from them after that last phone call. I started to feel a little lighter, like I was finally taking control of my life. For once, I could focus on my career without constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering when the next favor would be asked of me. Then came the text from my mom. I almost didn't open it at first, afraid of what might be in it. But curiosity got the best of me. "We need to talk. It's about Ethan. Ethan, my 3-year-old nephew. I had been helping out with him for months, nights, weekends, any time they needed me. But this time, the text felt different. It wasn't just a casual ask. It felt like an ultimatum. I called her back, my heart pounding in my chest. "Mom, what's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "You know, your dad and I have been talking, and we really need you to come over tonight. It's not just babysitting this time. Ethan's been acting up, and we can't handle it without you. You're the only one who can make him listen. Can you come?" I felt my stomach drop. I had just told her I couldn't do this anymore, that I needed to focus on myself. And now she was asking for more, with an added layer of guilt. "You're the only one who can handle him." That hit me hard. I tried to explain again. "Mom, I can't. I've been working nonstop and I just ... I need to focus on my job. I can't keep doing this. I've been telling you this." But then came the twist that completely shattered my resolve. She said something I never expected to hear. "If you don't come over, I don't know how we're going to manage. Your sister's not available, and honestly, I just don't think you care about us anymore. We've given everything for you, and this is what you do. Walk away when we need you." The words hit me like a slap to the face. I felt the sting of her disappointment, the accusation that I didn't care about my family. It felt like everything I had just built for myself was crumbling in that one moment. I knew she was manipulating me, but the guilt was overwhelming. I could feel myself starting to give in, my old habits kicking in. I almost said yes. Almost. But then I paused. I had come so far. I had taken that first step toward my own life, my own career. I couldn't go back. "I'm sorry, Mom," I said, trying to hold it together, "but I can't do this anymore. I'm done." The silence on the other end of the line felt deafening. "I guess you've made your choice," she said coldly, before hanging up. And just like that, the last thread of hope for reconciliation snapped. The days after that phone call were some of the hardest. I've ever experienced. My mom didn't call, and neither did my dad. For a while, it felt like the world had gone silent. I had expected some sort of backlash, but the complete radio silence was more crushing than I could have imagined. It was like they had given up on me, and I could feel the weight of it pressing down harder than ever. I kept telling myself that I was doing the right thing, that I was finally choosing my own future. But deep down, the guilt was eating away at me. Every time I saw my phone light up, I braced myself for another call, another text, something to drag me back in. But nothing came. My family's absence in my life felt suffocating, like I was floating in space, disconnected from everything I had known for years. At work, I started to make real progress. My boss began noticing the difference, how I was more present, more engaged, how I was bringing new ideas to the table. I was moving forward, finally. I was no longer the person who dropped everything for everyone else. I had reclaimed a part of myself that I hadn't even realized I was losing until it was gone, but still, every day, I couldn't shake the feeling that my family was waiting for me to come crawling back. I started to see things differently now. I was no longer just the one who was always there to pick up the pieces. I was the one they expected to carry the weight, to do what no one else was willing to do. And the more I realized it, the more I resented the fact that I had been so easily manipulated for so long. One evening, a few weeks after the last phone call, I walked into my apartment after work and saw a letter on my doorstep. It was from my mom. I hesitated, then opened it, the words inside slicing through me. It was a carefully written letter, full of guilt and sorrow. She said that she missed me, that she needed me, and that everything was falling apart without me. She begged me to come back, to just help out one more time. I stood there, staring at the letter, my hands shaking. The temptation to pick up the phone and call her was overwhelming. But then I thought about everything I had worked for, everything I had given up to get to this point. Was I really ready to throw all that away? I knew what I had to do. I had already taken the first step, and this was the moment that would define my future. The day I received that letter was the day I hit rock bottom. I had spent the entire day at work, trying to focus, trying to push forward, but the guilt kept gnawing at me. Every time I looked at that letter, I felt like I was a terrible son, a horrible person for even thinking about rejecting my mother's plea. But I knew deep down that if I gave in now, it would be like taking a step backward into a life I had fought so hard to escape. I spent the entire night pacing around my apartment, my thoughts like a war. I thought about the times my parents had asked me to sacrifice my own happiness for theirs, how they always expected me to be there when they needed me, but never offered that same support when it was my turn. And I thought about my sister, Emma, who never seemed to have to carry any of the weight. She'd lived her life, built her career, and yet it was always me who was expected to put everything aside. Around midnight, I picked up my phone and texted my mom. "I'm sorry, I can't keep doing this. I need space." I didn't expect a response, but a few minutes later, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from my dad. "You'll regret this. You'll see, you're making a mistake." The words stung more than I expected. They were meant to manipulate me, to make me feel like I was making a choice that would haunt me forever. But as I sat there reading that text, I realized something. I was already haunted. I was haunted by years of putting my own life on hold for people who never saw my struggles or acknowledged my sacrifices. They never cared about how much I gave up, how much I suffered. As long as they got what they needed from me. I looked at the message one more time before I deleted it. I didn't need to read it anymore. The words didn't have the power they once did. I put my phone down and finally let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. I knew that things with my family would never be the same. There was no going back now. I was done being the one who was always expected to sacrifice, to give up my future for theirs. But as I closed my eyes that night, for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I was finally doing something for myself, and no matter how hard it got, no matter how much my family tried to pull me back in, I wasn't going to let go of this newfound freedom the next morning. I woke up with a sense of finality that I hadn't expected. It was like something inside me had clicked into place, and I knew that I had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I had been stuck for so long in this toxic loop, sacrificing my happiness and future for a family who never appreciated it, and now I was finally choosing me. I went into work that day with a new mindset. For the first time in a long time, I felt confident. I was no longer tethered to the expectations of my parents, no longer worried about their disappointment. I spent the entire day in meetings, brainstorming new ideas for the project I had been working on. It felt freeing. The work was the same, but my approach was different. I wasn't constantly thinking about how my family needed me. I was actually present, in a way I hadn't been for years, but I couldn't avoid the reality of the situation for long. That night, as I walked back to my apartment, I got a call from my mom. I knew it was coming, but I wasn't ready for how it felt. I let it ring twice before I answered. "Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You've made a huge mistake," she said immediately, her voice trembling with emotion. "We've always been there for you. You're abandoning your family, and you'll regret it. You don't know how much we've sacrificed for you." Her words hit me, but instead of the guilt I was used to feeling, I felt a flicker of something else, anger. Anger at how she had never seen me, how she had always demanded more from me than I could give. "I'm not abandoning you," I said, my voice firmer than I'd ever heard it. "I'm finally choosing myself. I can't keep living for everyone else. I've spent my whole life doing that, and I'm done." There was silence on the other end, the kind of silence that made my stomach turn. I thought she might say something else, something to pull me back, but instead, she just whispered, "I don't understand." And that was it. The conversation ended with her hanging up, and for the first time, I didn't feel the overwhelming rush of guilt. I didn't feel the need to explain myself any further. I had said what I needed to say, and it was the first time in my life I had truly put myself first. I sat down on the couch, staring at my phone, feeling like a weight had been lifted. For years, I had been trying to live up to their expectations, to be the perfect son who always put them first. But now, I was finally choosing my own path. It felt terrifying and freeing all at once that night. I packed a bag and went for a walk, letting myself breathe in the fresh air. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited to find out. The next few weeks were a blur of work, solitude, and the constant hum of doubt in the back of my mind. My parents didn't reach out, not once. It was like I had been erased from their lives. I thought it would feel like a relief, but instead, it felt empty. The silence between us was deafening. Every time my phone buzzed, I held my breath, hoping it wasn't one of their calls, but it never was. I focused on my career like I never had before. Without the emotional weight of constantly being pulled in 1,000 different directions, I was able to throw myself into my work. My ideas were being noticed by my boss, and within weeks, I was given a lead role on a new project. It was the first real recognition I'd ever received at this job, and for the first time, I felt proud of myself. But there was also a gnawing emptiness that came with the success. I couldn't ignore the fact that I was alone in this. Yes, I was climbing the corporate ladder, finally moving forward in life. But every achievement felt a little hollow because my family wasn't there to share it with me. My sister, Emma, called a couple of times. She didn't ask me directly about my decision, but she hinted at it. I could tell she was trying to figure out what had happened between me and our parents. But it was clear she wasn't about to pick a side. That was the thing about Emoshi. Never had to deal with the same pressures I did. She lived her life on her own terms. And that's why it never crossed her mind to stand up to our parents the way I had. One evening, a few weeks after everything had gone down, I got a text from my dad. It was brief, but the words hit me harder than I expected. "I hope you're happy. But remember, we did everything for you. Don't forget that." I stared at the message for a long time, the anger rising in me. They had never understood. They didn't get it. It wasn't about me not appreciating what they had done for MIT. It was about me finally taking control of my life. But I also realized something in that moment. Their control over me. Their guilt, their expectations, they had been the chains that kept me from living the life I wanted, and I had broken free. Still, it didn't make it any easier to accept that this was the reality now. My family, the people I had spent my entire life sacrificing for, were gone. I knew they wouldn't change. I knew they wouldn't suddenly understand what I had done, why I had done it. They would continue to see it as me walking away, and that was something I would have to live with. But as time passed, the bitterness started to fade. I realized that I wasn't as alone as I thought. I had built a life outside of my family's expectations, a life where I was allowed to be myself, to grow, to thrive. I began to make new connections, to nurture friendships that had been neglected for years. For the first time, I felt like I was building something that was truly mine, and I was okay with it. I was more than okay. It wasn't until months later that I finally felt the full weight of what I had done. The relationship I'd had with my parents, built on years of sacrifice and silence, was over. I had severed the ties that had held me back for so long, and I couldn't turn back now. There was no magical reconciliation, no heartfelt apology that would make everything right. What had been broken was beyond repair. But in that brokenness, I found something far more valuable: my peace. I had spent so many years trying to make everyone else happy, trying to fix everything for them, that I had forgotten what it felt like to live for myself. The more I distanced myself from the guilt, the more I started to realize how much I had been living in their shadow. I wasn't just their son or their fixer, I was a person with dreams, ambitions, and a future that deserved to be lived. And I finally had the chance to build that future without fear of disappointing anyone else. One afternoon, while I was working on a project at the office, my phone buzzed with an unexpected notification. It was a voicemail from my mom. I hesitated for a moment before hitting play. Her voice was shaky, distant, like she had finally run out of things to say. "I don't know where we went wrong, but I hope one day you'll understand. You've hurt us, and we're trying to move on, ... But I still love you. I hope you can find peace, too." I sat there in silence, the weight of her words sinking in. It was the closest thing to an apology I was ever going to get, and it wasn't much. It didn't erase the years of manipulation, the guilt, the expectation. But in that moment, I realized I didn't need her approval anymore. I didn't need anyone's approval. For the first time, I allowed myself to feel something I hadn't felt in years: relief. I had made the right choice. I had chosen my own life, and I wasn't going to apologize for it. I took a deep breath and set the phone down, the finality of it all settling into my chest. This was my life now, and no matter what my family thought, no matter how they saw me or judged me, I was going to live it on my own terms. I wasn't the son who sacrificed everything for everyone else. I wasn't the scapegoat, the fixer, or the one who kept the family together. I was just a man who had finally found the strength to stand up for himself and walk away from the chains that had held him in place for so long. And that freedom, that was worth everything.